Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going on a seriously fascinating journey into the highly cryptic, and I mean kinda mind-bendingly mysterious world of ancient Chinese inner alchemy. We're going to be looking at a master text called the Qingyuan Chun. And look, I know this stuff sounds dense, but I promise you, by the time we wrap up, these deeply complex secrets are gonna make total sense. You'll see exactly what they're talking about. Okay, just take a listen to this line directly from the text. It says, "On the winding river, seeing the moon's bright purity, there's a flying crow." Now, reading that today, it sounds incredibly bizarre, right? I mean, it's beautiful for sure, but it's highly poetic and totally abstract. Like, what in the world does a flying crow on a moonlit river have to do with human health or energy or living a long life? Well, it actually has absolutely everything to do with this concept right here, Nadon, or inner alchemy. So what is that? It's this esoteric Taoist discipline where practitioners focus intensely on physical, mental, and spiritual cultivation. And the end goal? Achieving incredible harmony and longevity. They literally treat the human body like a giant metaphorical furnace. So that crazy poetry we just looked at, yeah, it isn't just poetry. It's actually a highly coded, step-by-step manual for internal meditation. All right, so here's our game plan for decoding this ancient puzzle step by step. First step, decoding the elixir code. Then, number 2, refining self, awaiting the moment. Third, firing, the first yang. Fourth, forming elixir out of nothing. Fifth, guidance, breaking cultivation myths. And finally, number 6, mind cultivation, 3,000 merits. Section 1, decoding the elixir code. So, to actually understand the Qingyuan Xuan text, we first have to break the code of its vocabulary. And this brilliantly illustrates how these ancient authors deliberately hid their most powerful practices behind, well, completely everyday deceptive words. We need a translation key. So let's look at this. Lead and mercury, those aren't toxic metals you're supposed to swallow. They actually represent your internal energy and your mind. The cauldron isn't an iron pot you cook in. It's the lower dantian, basically your lower belly area. And terms like husband and wife mating, that is strictly talking about yin and yang energetic merging within your own body. So, bottom line, literally nothing in this text means what it literally says. Moving right along to section 2, refining self, awaiting the moment. Now that we've got the language down, we can uncover that the very first physical step of this whole alchemy process is actually achieving complete, absolute stillness. For example, the text talks a lot about the midnight clock, and, get this, for centuries, a literal interpretation led people to believe that monks had to sit in the pitch black dark, literally staring at water clocks, just waiting for exactly 12 a.m. to start meditating. But the true meaning? Midnight is really just a metaphor for profound internal emptiness. It's that exact moment of deep internal quiet when your energy first begins to naturally stir. It has absolutely nothing to do with what time it actually is on the wall. And this process follows a really specific internal timeline. Let's walk through how this flows. First, you have emptying the mind, which is your preparation. Second, the first yang stirs. That acts as the ignition. Third, advancing the fire, which circulates that energy. And fourth, the elixir condenses, meaning it achieves maturation. Keep in mind we're not talking about historical time here. This is a physiological roadmap of internal events happening purely inside the practitioner's body. Section 3, firing the first yang. Now, I know the word firing sounds incredibly dangerous, especially when we're talking about the inside of your body. But the reality is actually much more grounding. What's super interesting here is just how simple the core secret is. The fire is literally just your breath and your focused attention. When the text tells the practitioner to advance the fire, it simply means using continuous, unbroken breathing to move energy along the spine and through the body. It's exactly like blowing steadily on a glowing ember to build up the heat.
Section 4, forming elixir. Out of nothing.
Okay, so this internal heat eventually brings us to the absolute climax of the meditation process. This is it, the exact moment where the mythical elixir is finally formed. So let's loop back to that weird opening quote we looked at. Remember the flying crow? Well, here's the big reveal. The flying crow is simply a drop of condensed, pure energy settling down into the dantian, your body's energy center. So that beautiful, totally bizarre poem, it was actually just describing the exact physical sensation of your internal energy condensing into a heavy drop of dew and falling into your belly. Boom! Ancient magic decoded. Section 5, guidance, breaking cultivation myths. Now, you might be thinking, wow, it'd be really easy to misunderstand this poetry. And hey, you're not alone. Even in ancient times, people got this completely wrong, to the point where the author actually had to write commentary to brutally expose these historical false paths. Because of the metaphors, people were literally swallowing random external objects, or, get this, frantically swallowing their own saliva, actually thinking they were ingesting magic potions. They were engaging in literal physical sexual practices because they completely misread the husband and wife metaphors. Some even performed forced, stressful physical exercises, like aggressively pinching their own navels, trying to manually create the elixir. It's wild, and it really shows how easily people got completely distracted by literal interpretations. So the crucial point here is beautifully summarized in this quote straight from the source commentary. The great way is simple. It creates something out of nothing. Actually, scratch that. It's more than simple. It's profoundly internal. True alchemy requires absolutely no external props, no bizarre physical acts, and definitely no weird potions. It relies entirely on the quiet, patient mastery of your own internal energy. You build the elixir from nothingness. Section 6, Mind Cultivation, 3,000 Merits. And this brings us to what is perhaps the most surprising twist of this entire explainer, the hard, real-world requirement for ultimate success. This internal transformation, it doesn't just happen over a weekend retreat. The text outlines a brutal, highly dedicated 9-year evolution. Step 1 is transforming qi, or energy. Step 2 is transforming blood and flesh. Step 3 is transforming bone and marrow. And finally, step 4, becoming pure yang. It's a massive, multi-year biological and spiritual evolution. But here's the catch. Time and meditation alone, they aren't enough. You also need this exact number, 3,000. The text insists that to complete this 9-year journey to pure yang, a practitioner absolutely must accumulate exactly 3,000 good deeds. And we're not just talking about polite, everyday gestures here. The text outlines mandatory ethical actions. We're talking about actively saving the dying, helping those in disaster, fiercely protecting and not destroying nature, and fundamentally not stealing or even harboring harmful thoughts. The text is forcefully connecting internal magic to outer morality. Listen, all the deep breathing and internal meditation in the world means absolutely nothing if you aren't an ethical, actively helpful person in your society. And that brings us to the ultimate core thesis of this ancient text. Inner magic is impossible without outer morality. The author explicitly states that you must master the human way before you can ever hope to achieve the immortal way. You simply cannot transcend humanity if you are failing at being a good human. Which leaves us with a pretty heavy but honestly deeply inspiring realization to end on. If the ancient, highly coded path to true longevity, ultimate health, and profound esoteric wisdom essentially boils down to doing 3,000 good deeds in the real world, well, how many of you started today?